We have a human need to look for evidence when we see something anomalous like a reality shift or Mandela effect. Those seeking evidence of Mandela effects, also known as reality shifts, find reassurance in others who remember the same alternate histories that indicate that we are most likely living in not one, but rather many worlds. But are there other ways we might be able to see some kind of verification that reality shifts are real? In addition to finding support from others whose memories of facts and events are similar to ours, we can also find further supporting evidence that reality shifts are real, in flip-flopping reality shifts or Mandela effects. Flip-flopping reality shifts provide one with the opportunity to see something change back and forth from one state to another, each time seeming as if it's always been that way. Noticing such shifts can be especially helpful for providing someone who is unsure whether their mind is playing tricks on them or a reality shift or Mandela effect has actually occurred. One of my recent experiences with a reality shift, also known as the Mandela effect, has to do with Abraham Lincoln. I recently heard that Abraham Lincoln apparently had a living descendant up until the 1980s. This was news to me, because when I was recently reading Lincoln's biography, I remember feeling how sad it was that Lincoln had no living descendants of any kind. And now I've just heard that he did have living descendants, according to our current official records and history, which is very cool. One of the more interesting aspects of reality shifts that I've observed over the past 20 years I've been studying the reality shift phenomenon, is the way that some shifts sometimes flip-flop back and forth between a couple of noticeably different possibilities. Usually the period of time in which I observe this flip-flopping is within a few minutes, days or weeks, after which point things seem to settle down. Many readers of my Reality Shifters Design have also reported this phenomenon, and also noted that there is a window of time in which the switching back and forth occurs, after which a kind of stabilization takes hold. Rain gutter flip-flops. Right now in October 2016, my next-door neighbors currently don't have leaf guard protectors over their rain gutters, but that has not always been the case. I was surprised one day to look out my dining room window and see something I'd not noticed on the adjacent roof, a beautiful leaf guard system installed atop the rain gutters on my neighbor's roof. I did a double take, while wondering how they'd managed to install such a classy system seemingly without having made any noise. I figured I must have just been away during the installation time, which surely would have been noisy, and left it at that. A day or two later, my gaze naturally wandered along the outlines of my neighbor's roof, and I was stunned to notice that the rain gutter leaf guard system was gone. Dog cataracts flip-flops. I find it helpful to know facts can be in a flip-flopping state when, for example, helping intentionally vote for our elderly family dog not having cataracts when he was in his teenage years. When I first noticed his eyes looked like they were developing cataracts, I had an instant emotional reaction of no. While feeling a sense of certainty that his eyes would be just fine, and then the next time I looked at him, his eyes were indeed just fine. A day or two later, another family member reported to me that there was sad news: our dog was developing cataracts in his old age. I replied that our dog sometimes looks like he has cataracts, but then his eyes can be seen to be perfectly clear when we look at his eyes again. Fortunately, I live in a house where reality shifts are an accepted part of daily life. Once we'd all agreed this was the case, our elderly dog locked in the reality with clear vision and he had no further evidence of cataracts. So, sometimes it helps to have people to assist in bringing greater coherence to a favored, healthier reality. Door lock flip-flops. I include this reality shift flip-flop that I experienced one time while camping in my book, Reality Shifts, When Consciousness Changes the Physical World. I was camping in August 1998 when I noticed that several times after carefully locking all the car doors, I'd return to the car shortly afterward to find a car door unlocked. Sometimes it would be the back right door, sometimes the back left door. I felt flustered, because my intention was to keep the car locked, since my purse, money and valuables were inside. After the first time this happened, I made a concerted effort to double-check the doors were locked. The first door to appear unlocked was the left, then the right door appeared unlocked, and then the left again. I felt consternated but also intrigued. Fortunately, the times this happened I had only been gone from the car for a short time, less than an hour, and the times I was away from the car for more than an hour, it was still locked when I returned to the car. Benefiting from reality shift flip-flops. While making Gravenstein apple pie for a neighborhood block party this month, I was sad to see that we seemed to be out of nutmeg. I hoped there'd be a little bit of nutmeg in the spice cupboard, but after having checked just about every spice container on the shelf, I couldn't find it. I visualized that my preferred place for the nutmeg would be on the front left-hand side of the cupboard, as I verified both visually and by shifting spice containers in that area around that it wasn't there. Since I am well aware that it's possible to close a cupboard door, do something else for a bit, and come back to sometimes find an item that wasn't there before, I did just that. I shut the spice cupboard doors, and walked over to see if I might find the nutmeg on the kitchen counter. It wasn't there, and I returned to the spice cupboard to open the doors and check again, looking where I hoped to find it in the front left section. I then shut the cupboard doors and repeated the process of busying myself with another inspection of the kitchen counter. I did this whole sequence 2 or 3 more times, and then voila! The nutmeg spice container was on the front left-hand section of the spice shelf, just where I'd hoped to find it originally. Thoughts about reality residue. The term reality residue is used to describe lingering smoking gun evidence of alternate histories that are no longer part of the official historical record. Such anomalies might include, for example, a videotape case or label showing a film title the way some people remember it to be, rather than how any authorized example of such things now exist. The general idea about reality residue is that other realities are out there and we are in the real reality. This kind of old-school conceptualization about what it's like to live in a multiverse gives people a sense that some people have come from certain timelines, rather than the idea that just possibly there is no real reality. Instead, consider the idea that who we are is not so much any physical embodiment of ourselves as it is our conscious awareness, the aspect of ourselves that cannot be created, destroyed, or measured the way scientists surely wish possible. Some people think if you just go back far enough in time, that you'll see evidence before the timeline shift or whatever they're thinking happened, that you'll see evidence before that happened. What I have instead found over 20 years of research, and that doesn't mean it's definitive, it's just what I've experienced, and what people have written to me, is usually there's a consistent history in whatever official history reality you're in. So the official history might include people like ourselves, Mandela effect experiencers, reality shifters, who say, yes, I've written a description of it, I've drawn a picture of it, I've simulated what I think I saw. It's not the real thing, but it's what I remember. So you'll get people's artistic representations of previous histories, but not the so-called smoking gun physical evidence. But no worries. What I suggest people who are looking for reality residue do in addition to that, because you can keep looking, maybe someone will find something. Usually so far it's been misprints, typos, things that you can explain away some other way, rather than massive physical evidence that's overwhelmingly persuasive. So what I like people to think about is these flip-flops. Look for those. A thought to keep in mind if noticing something that might be reality residue is to consider whether this might represent a reality flip-flop. Keep in mind that some flip-flopping can go back and forth between realities a few times, before stability returns and a particular history stays selected. And that can be very strong evidence for the person experiencing it. The power of suggestion drives false memories and the placebo effect. Most any time you see the Mandela effect covered in mainstream media, you're likely to see mainstream journalists attempting to sweep Mandela effects into the dustbin of so-called false memories, without consideration of the possibility that alternate histories might be real. We do see more thoughtful consideration of the notion of alternate realities covered in news stories about the placebo effect. Intriguingly, the power of suggestion is credited both with creating false memories, which are hardly ever considered to be a good thing, at one end of the spectrum, and with empowering people to enjoy tremendous placebo effect benefits at the other. Placebo efficacy has doubled over the past 30 years in the United States of America for such areas as spontaneous remission of debilitating health problems, reduced pain, increased stamina, greater cognitive abilities, and much, much more. The placebo effect is of such tremendous and growing interest that it is now being studied at dedicated research centers, such as the Program in Placebo Studies and the Therapeutic Encounter hosted at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center and Harvard Medical School. There is a large and growing body of evidence to support the way we can harness the power of suggestion to surf between parallel possible worlds, especially at this time in history when many top scientists consider reality to possibly be a simulation. This simulation viewpoint was even shared by Bank of America Merrill Lynch last month with its clients, stating there's a 20 to 50% chance that we're living in the Matrix, meaning that the world we experience as real is actually just a simulation. This assertion is backed by scientists Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Nick Bostrom, who wrote the thought-provoking paper, "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" New paradigms take time to be fully adopted, and what we are witnessing now at this dawn of the quantum age is the letting go of the old Aristotelian logic, with its three basic principles of identity, contradiction, and the excluded middle. Quantum physics has pretty much completely overturned this classical logic apple cart, but the scientific method has not yet adopted the much more comprehensive and complete quantum logic. So while the mainstream media and mainstream science take time adjusting to the new quantum age, we can start enjoying some of the benefits now. Just how good can it get when you benefit from reality shift flip-flops?